Welcome to State of the Art, and joining us at our new time, 6 p.m. on Friday. And my name is Peggy Nelson.
And I'm Mike Boland.
And we love doing this show about all arts, all culture. And just to give you a brief background, I'm a member of the Connecticut Critics Circle and also an actress.
And I'm a writer and an actor and a sometime director and just a big loudmouth.
Which is exactly what we need here. And I just want to give a shout out to our engineer, Rod Richardson, who makes our show happen now every Friday at 6 p.m. WPKN is an independent community radio, listener-supported community radio serving Fairfield, New Haven, and Litchfield counties in Connecticut, also Suffolk County in New York. And we're very proud of that. We have a great show lined up for today. We have Xiomaro in the studio. He's a photographer with a new book called Street Photography of New York City. We're also going to be speaking with Broadway performer Lauren Boyd, whose credits include Hamilton, Wicked, and West Side Story. But before we get started, let's just talk about anything we've seen or done having to do with the arts. You got anything, Mike?
Well, yeah, I did go see Fox and the Fairway at MTC last week on their opening night. Really fun show, really well directed. Farce is so hard. It was opening night, and usually you get it about halfway through the run. You get the timing and all of the the jokes and the physical stuff. But they really had it down pat, and it was a really good show. It was packed and sold out. And,
that must have made Kevin very happy. He was a guest last week on the show.
He was,
and it's wonderful that you were able to go see it. I know I have some critics that are going this weekend.
Oh, good,
and I'll be anxious to see it myself as well. I spent Saturday at the Bridgeport Arts Trail.
Wow.
And it was just so spectacular. Honestly, how does it go beyond my expectation every year? And I think I'm going to head off to 1 or 2, 3 buildings, and I get so immersed with talking to the artists, seeing their work, going to the next. I mean, there are like 30-some at the Metro, which is where I was. And I came home and I bought things, which is, what they want you to do that too. So I bought some things, some Christmas gifts, and I have a history to tell about it because I met the artist and found out more about them than just the purchase of their work. And that's significant when you're buying a personal piece, like art that's going to sit in somebody's home.
Absolutely.
Speaking of art and being an artist, that brings us to our first guest, Xiomaro, who is a tremendous photographer and has put out this new book, Street Photography of New York City. And it's this wonderful collection, and I want to refer to the first sentence in your introduction because I think it's so great. You say the collection of photographs in this book began when I got hit in the face with a tuft of red, white, and blue feathers. That's where it all started? Tell us about that.
That's where it started. It didn't hurt, but it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
I really actually, when I go through Times Square, I'm in a rush because I want to catch my train home from work at the time. And so I really thought it was a pigeon because they were everywhere. So I thought maybe something hit me. But when I looked and turned around, I saw 2 women wearing nothing more than the feathers that hit me in the face.
Right. And
their body paint.
Right.
And I had never seen that before in Times Square. It must have been happening for a while, but I don't always go through Times Square, and I wasn't really paying attention. And so I go, wow. And then I saw that repeatedly. I just thought maybe it was a one-off situation, but I saw it many times after that. And then there were other weird encounters as I walked through the city. And I go, I should photograph this because I'm mostly photographing the national parks, which is interesting.
Yes.
This is a very different kind of interesting.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, people are probably more interesting to take pictures of than mountains and buildings and,
Yeah, I mean, there's a beauty in all of it, but there's such a variety of people out there, especially in New York City. The scenes that you can capture, like the urban landscape, if you will, is never going to be the same. If you photograph a mountain or something, it's more or less the same. The seasons will change and the lighting will change. But, the teaming of people in that city, and you got residents who live there, you got out-of-town workers, people from other boroughs or other states who come in. Then you have the tourists.
Right.
And then you got the business people and the artists and the people who are just oddballs. And it's all colliding in one place. And they're all interacting. And then there's the billboard lights and the traffic and the police. And so there's a lot. And as a photographer, it's really challenging because no one's standing still for me to take a picture.
Right. Exactly.
Unlike the Park Service where things are set, So I can't use a tripod. I can't use a large camera, although I've done it before, but it's not really stealthy enough if you want to get people in a candid moment. So it's a different exercise of skills, and that's what kind of got me hooked in it, because I go, this is a way for me to practice photography every single day, as opposed to waiting from one national park commission to the next one, which could be several months. And it's just a way to stay sharp. And so when I go photograph like a historic site, it's almost relatively easy. In fact, I think I don't know if I wrote it in the book or not, but like a baseball player will put a donut on the bat and they'll swing it just to add some extra weight.
Yes.
When you remove the donut, the bat feels lighter and you kind of feel like you can swing it quicker. It's kind of like that,
It's a good analogy.
Yeah, so just photographing the streets does that for me. It exercises muscles that I wouldn't use otherwise.
Right. I think that what I want the listeners to realize that this is not a book this is not a photography book about the many buildings, historic buildings in New York City. This is a book that encompasses everything from the people to the smallest piece of a doorway. And in that way, it makes it absolutely New York. Yes, it's like, yes, we've seen the book with the Empire State Building and World Trade and so forth and so on, and Staten Island, and we've seen those photographs. But these are once in it's not going to happen again. You've captured that moment. Yeah,
I grew up in New York. I was born and raised in the city. And, of course, there are many commuters from Connecticut who, work into the city. So, they tend to see the same things as the tourists would. And we're so busy, we don't notice the hidden beauty and the little things that happen day to day. So what I'm trying to do with the book and with the photographs is to reveal this identity or identities about New York that transcends the cliches, if you will. Radio City, the Empire State Building. Even the architecture, there's a whole chapter I devote to, well, it's not the whole chapter, but there are many pictures in the third chapter where I do photograph architecture, but these little things that people miss.
Right.
So, for instance, on Radio City, we're all familiar with that very famous facade, the marquee. But if you go on the side street, there are these entrances for the actors and for, backstage workers. And up on the top, there's like a grill and these little faces there that, as far as I know, no one's even noticed it. I mean, I'm sure someone has, but everyone who's seen the pictures go, I walk by there all the time and I've never seen those little faces there, the theatrical faces of
the masks.
The masks, right. And another one that's kind of ambiguous that I've never seen before that I also photographed. So it's just, getting people to understand that there's just layers of things about the city, and not just New York City, but wherever you may live. You don't always have to travel to an exotic place to get great pictures. It's really about learning how to see and how to be observing and to take your time, and that's how you can get some really, really interesting photographs.
I love this photograph of the statue of Atlas, and how it's juxtaposed that way. It's really spectacular.
Since we're on the radio and people can't see this.
No, I know. I'm showing it to Mike.
But if you want to see it, get the book. I'll describe it. That was a good lead-in. Huh?
It is. Yeah, it's just a celebration of such a landmark in a totally different and new way.
Yeah, in Rockefeller Center, there's this famous statue of Atlas holding up the world, and most people take it from the front. I took it from behind because when you do it that way, you actually see St. Patrick's Cathedral through the through the world that he's holding, and I just thought it was a nice juxtaposition.
It absolutely is. You've divided it into chapters. This book, which a photography book, which is sort of interesting for a book of photography. Let's talk about the sections. First is the city.
The first part is mostly about the people. The way they're dressed, just a diversity of folks, the things that they do day to day. Some of them are just very just momentary things that I just thought were little moments that were just very beautiful. The second chapter is more about how the city has changed. So a lot of the photographs kind of document some of the protests that were happening in the city as the MAGA movement started to kind of emerge. And I just thought that was really interesting because New York City, being a traditionally liberal city, even when we've had Republican mayors like Lindsay, for instance, they tended to be more on the liberal side. And I saw, folks who ordinarily you wouldn't associate with the right wing, boldly promoting the MAGA movement. I just thought that was really fascinating at the time, not knowing where it was going to lead. So I have photographs of that. And then the third chapter is more about these small moments that we don't notice, the small architectural details. But even things that are artistic in an architectural sense, but they happen, just in the moment. Sometimes I'll see someone wearing a certain color in their jacket or their shirt, and it's juxtaposed with a poster that has almost the exact same colors, and they just happen to emerge at the same time, and it's gone in a second. I just snapped my finger there, and you catch it in a moment, and it looks almost like it's posed, but it's not. And I would say maybe probably 99% of the photographs are unposed. So
Right.
I really like getting people when they're candid. And that's really important to me in this day and age when people are so photo savvy because they're doing selfies and they're online and they want to document everything they do, that everyone's posing all the time. They're very good at that.
Do you feel, is it a waste of time to plan what you're going to look for in a given day when you're out there with your camera? Or is it are you just totally receptive to whatever pops up? Or do you actually say, like, I would love to find something over here? Or
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I actually never plan anything.
Okay, good.
I just kind of wander around. And I don't even think about what kind of a picture I want to take. For starters, everything is happening so fast, it's kind of hard to plan anything.
Right.
But I just photograph instinctively whatever interests me. And I also take chances. I'll do a lot of weird pictures. I don't have too many of my weirder photographs in this particular book, although there's one that I'm working on now that'll come out in 2027 that will have those. And when I say weird, what I mean is photographs where I intentionally set the camera so that things are blurry. And what happens is you get these ghostly images of people in the city, and it just gives you a whole another sense of what the city is like. And then I also have other photographs where what I'm doing is I'm photographing the reflections off of surfaces, which is mostly windows, anything metallic. It could be a puddle of water or a windshield from a bus. And what it does is it gives you an abstraction. And sometimes people think it's all Photoshop, and it's not. It's all reality. I'm not manipulating anything. In fact, sometimes when I upload these on certain social media sites, a warning will actually pop up and say, we do not permit AI images, and it's not AI. It's not even an abstract picture. It's actually reality. But when you frame it in a certain way, you get these layers, because in Manhattan there's so many lights and so much advertising and so many people and reflective surfaces, that if you just if you just create your composition in a certain way, you have no point of reference. You just see all these symbols, and it becomes almost like a symbolic work.
I noticed that you were talking about the colors, and I was struck by how at any one given moment you could be staring at a scene in New York and realize that everybody is in orange or red, or
Yes.
I'm like, how you didn't make that happen? It just happened.
That's correct. Yeah, I think the photo you're referring to is a fellow wearing a red shirt. There's a couple of tourists doing a selfie, and they're wearing a red outfit. Then if you look in the back, there's a Coca-Cola sign, which of course is red. Then you have red lights, traffic lights, and there's other red. And that's kind of what I mean. Like when I'm walking down the street, I'll notice that, and I have to take a picture very quickly because those people might move.
Right.
And also I want to do it in a way where they don't know that I'm taking the picture, because I think it's just a more interesting picture when people are captured as they really are, as opposed to posing. But those are the moments that, you experience Manhattan, or any location for that matter, in a different way if you're aware that those possibilities and you're kind of looking for it. So to go back to your question, Mike, I don't intentionally go out looking for anything in particular, but I do have a heightened sense of awareness of moments like that I want to capture in the camera.
Right, and you did a black and white one with horizontal lines that captured people wearing shirts and steps and other things that just. When I saw that on the page, it's like, I'm sure I've passed something like that, but mine eye never would have caught it like your eye did.
Right.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, and I have to do it quick because I'm actually walking when I'm doing most of these photographs. I'm not standing in one particular spot waiting for things to unfold before me. I'm walking through the city, and those people are walking. And so sometimes it's hard to get a picture that it's sharp, because if I'm moving fast and they're moving fast, there's going to be a little bit of blur. But and also sometimes they know that I'm taking the picture. I think in the picture you're referring to, there's a woman there looking at me straight in, so she saw me. But that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah. You said you really don't plan anything, but I was struck by the diversity of people I see in your photographs, which to me is just, that's New York City, right? But you didn't try to do that. You didn't set out to do that.
No, again, I just, for starters, people should know that the photographs in this book were never created with the intention of it ever becoming a book, ever being exhibited, or being nothing more than just a way for me to keep my skills sharp. So that's part of the reason why, when I walk through the city, I really had no intention of what to shoot. It's just if something looked interesting, I would just photograph it. And so when I was offered the deal to do the book, I had to go through my photographs and figure out, well, what kind of a book is this going to be? And how do I break it up? How do I organize it? And that was a lot of work, quite frankly. I had to go through, well over 1,000 pictures over a 10-year period or whatever it was, and try to see relationships. And I noticed that there are certain things that I subconsciously was drawn to. So some of it is a diversity of people, even though that's just the way it is in the city. But you'll notice, for instance, I guess because I have long hair, and it's kind of wild. I took a lot of photos of people with interesting hair.
I did notice that, and beards and stuff like that. Yeah.
People with interesting clothes. I dress somewhat flamboyantly, I guess, for these days. So that attracted me also, because I think those things, what I say in the book is that the hordes of people in the city is like walking into a library. So there are all these books. We don't get to read them all. We don't even know what's in the book, but if we look at the spines, it'll give you some suggestion as to what these folks or what these books might be about. And for me, it's kind of like that with people. You have all these folks, and just based on how they wear their hair, their ethnicity, the clothing that they have, whether it's a work outfit or just a casual outfit, it gives you some sense of who they are as people, what their occupations are, what interests them, what's important to them. And so with these photographs, these are not wow pictures where you look at it and it just kind of blows your mind. You kind of have to sit with it for a bit and kind of take it in. It's a different kind of photography. There are folks who enjoy doing photographs where they exaggerate things. So they exaggerate the colors, they manipulate things in Photoshop. It almost becomes like a graphic. Right. And so I like something a little bit more traditional, where you kind of have to, it's almost like a movie. You kind of got to take it in, and it's not an action picture. It's not a Marvel comic. Right. I'm doing something more like a drama or something that's a little bit more psychological.
Do you find, Sio, that being a native New Yorker, that you're more attuned to stuff, or do you feel that maybe like you're over it a little bit? Like, for example, when I first started going to New York a lot, it was like, wow, look at all this. But then all of a sudden I'm like in there all the time, and I sort of walk with my head down a little bit more. As an artist, how does that ever equate to how you do your job?
I don't get easily impressed. So, I try to look for something that's a little, where the beauty and the interest is a little deeper to excavate. Some folks, if they heard me on your show before, might recall that I was a music lawyer, entertainment lawyer. So, I was around celebrities, and so I'm kind of used to that. And yes, because I grew up in New York, I'm accustomed to seeing, Radio City or, these different places. So I don't really see it as a tourist. But you do have to look harder, because if you're there every day, you kind of tune things out. I mean, that's why I got hit in the face with those feathers, because my mind was lost in thought about whatever was on my to-do list or whatever I had to do next, trying to catch my train so I don't miss it. So you tend to be focused like that, and then you don't notice what's happening around you. I mean, come on. I mean, how many men will not notice practically naked woman walking by, and I completely missed it because I was focused on some other thing. And so these photographs, I think, are part of the theme of the book, that there's a lot of interesting things. We live in a world where we're so distracted with our phones and all the conspiracy theories, things that are just wild and outlandish. But there's a lot of subtler things right around us that we're missing out on in the real world as opposed to the digital world.
Well, there's also a lot of humor in some of these photographs. I smiled that whole first section looking at your photographs there. There's humor there, but there's also this keen observation is what I say. A keen observation of people.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that because there are a lot of things that I find funny. And when we talk about humor, I don't mean that I'm making fun of anybody.
No, absolutely
I treat everybody
not.
with dignity and respect.
Yes,
but there's just
absolutely.
some funny moments. There's one picture, there's many, but there's one particular photo where I just happened to look up, and then I saw this huge sign that said something like "Help End Horse Laughter."
Right, yes.
And I'm like, what? What does that mean? And then I realized it's "Help End Horse Slaughter." But the S was blocked by a "Do Not Walk" sign.
Uh-huh.
And when I saw that, it was just like, that's really hilarious. So then I kind of backed up because I was walking past it. And I said, this I have to frame it so it looks exactly the way I experienced it. Mm. And so, there are little things like that. Now, we do want to help end horse slaughters. That's something to laugh about. But it was just the moment and how that's just the nature of the city. There's so much going on. It's almost like the city is speaking back to me. I talk about that a little bit in the book, too, how the city is almost like a living entity.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your writing as well, and looking at the photos, and of course reading your words. You're just as talented, really, as a writer. I'm not really surprised by that.
I am because I wasn't sure what to. Yeah, because the publisher said, well, we need captions for the photos.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, well, what am I going to write? Like, here we see a person walking across the street. Well, you could see that. You don't need me to explain that in a caption. And I didn't want to just put down like my name and the date and the location.
Right.
So I said, that's just going to be boring. So let me treat the captions as a separate narrative that just transcends the photos but are related to it. And so even if you didn't look at the pictures, but you read each caption in sequence, it tells its own story that's separate and apart from the introductions of the chapters that I wrote.
Right.
I'm guessing that the ones you wrote, like the middle ones that you wrote, were the best ones. You had to go back and fix the first ones because you weren't sure how to sort of frame your essay about the world of that photo.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Actually, the whole process began with the pictures. So
Right.
first I picked the pictures and I try to see how they are associated with each other and how they fall into what became chapters. So it all began with that. Then I worked on the captions,
Right.
and I wrote those first, and then I started writing the introductions. And of course, things got tweaked back and forth, but I kind of worked in reverse in a way.
Yeah, that's a writer thing. You get loose, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got to slow down.
Yeah.
That's right.
Something that drew me in was something that you said about this being like a future historical kind of book, looking at New York City at this one place in time, and you totally captured it in this photograph of today's newsstand.
Oh, yes.
Which has hardly any news.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the
Look at
newsstands. That was a ubiquitous thing in Manhattan and elsewhere around the country where you can just go and pick up, you see different magazines and newspapers and things. And
Right.
And first of all, there are a lot fewer of them now. I think at its peak in the 50s, there were maybe about 1,500 of those around the city. And now there's maybe a couple of hundred. I say in the book what it is, but I don't recall. But there are much fewer of them. And then the ones you do encounter, it's mostly selling candy and hats and junk and trinkets and souvenirs. And, no one's buying physical papers, let alone reading them, I suppose, because they're getting their news from Facebook and other social media sites. So, yeah, it's a very sad commentary. And I would think maybe 10 or 20 years from now, this book is still in print and people are reading it, they're going to say, what's that? They don't even know what it is.
One of the reviews that I read on, I think it was on Amazon, you got some wonderful reviews, and it says this book captures the raw pulse of New York City, unfiltered, emotional, and deeply human. Some images are disturbing, some inspiring, and others stop you in your tracks to think. Together, they form a portrait of the city's beauty, its chaos, and its truth. I thought, what else could you ask for? And it's very, very well written, and it really describes this book as it truly is.
Yeah, it summed it up very well. Because it is a mix of things that could be a little disturbing or surprising, depending on what your sensibilities are. I mean, I had one, I won't mention who they are, but it was a radio station in the Midwest, and they were very interested in having me on the air, just like you guys are doing today. But they decided not to because they were concerned that their audience might have, be challenged by the station promoting a book or having me on that has some nudity,
Right.
And it's not really nudity because they are wearing body paint. So it looks almost like they're wearing some kind of a tight outfit.
Right.
But I was just kind of surprised because given what I've seen on some movies, or even some TV shows, I just didn't think it was that shocking anymore. But there's some things that people will find disturbing. But the idea is it's not. I don't have it there to
shock.
Yeah, to intentionally shock or be controversial. I have no control over what I see in the city or what other people choose to do. So I approach it almost like a photojournalist. And so I'm not casting judgment either way. I'm just documenting what I see. And in my writing, I try to give some context so people understand why some people are doing what they do. So as a lawyer, I do get into some First Amendment issues that people have about, women being topless versus men being topless in public. And also the whole issue about free speech with the protests. And also just the freedom to photograph somebody in public. Some people don't really understand how that works. So I get into that in the book, too, in my writing.
Right. You also have a book that's coming out next year. All set up with that. I know you mentioned something happened in 27, but you do have another book coming out.
In March of 2026, I have another street photography book from the same publisher. It's part of the series. And this one is about a resort in New Jersey called the Wildwoods.
Right.
And so a lot of people will go there. They have a beautiful boardwalk. They have an amusement park. And what I thought was really interesting about it, again, you'll see many books about the Wildwoods, and they tend to focus on the architecture, which is very 1950s, almost kind of George Jetson looking, if you're familiar with that. So a lot of people will focus on that. They'll focus on, just the beauty of the blue skies and the sunshine and the boardwalk. I wanted to go deeper, kind of like as I did with New York City. And I just thought it was really interesting that you have this place that is very nostalgia-oriented. They kind of celebrate the 1950s. And I just thought that that was a nice juxtaposition with the way people are really kind of going about their business in the Wildwoods, which tends to be a lot more contemporary and kind of in contravention of the 1950s sensibility.
Well, I that sounds great. We might have to have you back again to talk about that in the spring. But meanwhile, our listeners might be thinking, what a great book this would be to purchase for themselves or purchase as a gift at this gift-giving time of year. We just had a visitor from Peru come and stay with us, and they went into the city. They actually stayed there for 5 or 6 days, and this would just be such a perfect gift for him, and I'm actually thinking about purchasing it for him. And anybody who loves the city and loves photography is going to love this book. Let's talk about how our listeners can purchase it.
Oh, it's... Publisher did a very good job. It's available in 23 nations, believe it or not. So you can get it on Amazon for sure. They always get my name wrong, so if you search for my name, good luck. You're probably not going to find it. But if you do photography, haunting, you can search for it that way. You can get it on my website, which is www.xiomaro.com. Xiomaro is X-I-O, M like Mary, A-R-O.com. And there are many, and also the bricks and mortar bookstores, and also these other Amazon type online retailers like Books A Million, for instance. Walmart has it. So
well, I think if you go to your local bookstore, right,
Yeah.
and you ask them to order it, they will,
Sure.
and that can happen. It can happen that way too if you want to support local business. Listen, thank you so much. It's so great to see you again.
Thank you, Sarah.
And I know that you're going to be back doing your work with the other type of work that you do very shortly. Actually, on Monday, you're heading off to Washington's site, and wish you well with that. And hope to see you again.
the time always goes by quick here. I don't know.
It really does.
It really does. We're going to take a little break. We'll be back with Lauren Boyd